Okay, welcome everybody. I know it's a tough competition. Coffee, me, coffee. I'm glad I won. Thanks for joining me. So our top 10 features that I find very useful in SQL Developer. I hope you will learn something new during this session. I added the even in the cloud here to tell you that whatever I tell here, it applies to cloud as well. It doesn't have to be mentioned separately. It all works wherever you are connected to a database. It's not because of the funding, as they suspected. I didn't get any funding coming here. Yeah. So I have graduated from the University of Helsinki. I have a master's degree currently, but I'm working on my PhD studies. I'm also teaching at the university. My research areas, I just made my new record. I changed this slide 5 minutes before I started. I have a new habit, changing slides just before the session. So we will be all equally surprised what I will be talking about. So my research topics are big data and multimodal databases. Multimodal meaning that you have different kind of data models in your database, like JSON, relational, XML, graph, that kind of things. Very interesting research. And I do that in the same university where I graduated years ago. I've been working with Oracle products since 1993. Actually, I worked with Oracle since 1990 when I was doing my studies at the university, but I don't count it because I was not paid for it. So I started counting when I started getting a salary for working with Oracle. I've been working on IT since 1990 and doing different kind of things. But anything to do with data and databases, that's what I love the most. I'm the CEO for Miracle, Oracle ACE Director, ambassador for EMEA Oracle User Group Community, speaker, author. I won the Devi for database design category in 2015. I have written 2 books. The first one is about database designing. I singly wrote it. And the second one is the one you might already seen earlier today when Brendan Tierney was giving his wonderful presentation. So this one is written by 5 ACE directors. 2 of me and 2 other are here today. Alex is in the audience. Thanks for joining. And I think Brendan is having a break now. A short introduction to the topic. So my first book is about Data Modeler. It is integrated in SQL Developer as well, but it's also a standalone product. And that's sometimes a bit confusing. So when I talk about Data Modeler, I talk about the standalone product, not about the integrated product. But today I only talk about SQL Developer. To see and understand the data structures and objects that you have in a database, SQL, but to design the database and to maintain the data structures, use Data Modeler. So Data Modeler is for designing databases, and SQL Developer is seeing what you have in a database already. So it's not for designing, it's for seeing what you have. You can also use it for designing. I will briefly mention that too, but still my recommendation when designing databases, use the standalone product, not the integrated one. So what we talk today, I said it's going to be 10-ish favorite topics about the tool because I have so many. I actually already decided not to do too many demos today. Let's see how I will handle it because the Wi-Fi is not too good. So I had some problems with the Wi-Fi. I might use my virtual machine, or let's see how I will do it. Or maybe I just explain the features. Let's see. So we talk about useful shortcuts. We talk about queries a little bit. We talk about debugger. So there's Brendan, one of the authors of the other book. We talk about compiling, exporting the result set, about data modeling, documentation and reports, database copy and database differentiate, schema browser, explain plan, and some other stuff, because 10 was already there. And I had some other things I wanted to talk about. So first of all, 4.2 just came out, the version 4.2, and there's a lot of cool features in that. So mostly I talk about features that you already had in previously releases, but I will highlight some of those that are only in 4.2. And I really encourage you to upgrade to 4.2 if you are using one of the previous versions at the moment. Useful shortcuts. So I type queries a lot, and then I do the run the statement, execute it. So I go here and I press this button here, but I'm not very good with the mouse. So I usually hit it, and I really get annoyed with it. So what I usually do, instead of pressing this button here, I press F9. Even the Ctrl+Enter, which is the official shortcut for that, is too difficult for me. F9, I just hit it easily. So your cursor is here anywhere in the sentence and you press F9, it's executed. Very easy and simple. And I save a lot of time every day with this one, F9. If you don't remember anything else after this session, remember F9, okay? So another thing, so I'm here, okay, now it's already falling. I'm not very good with these microphones. I wouldn't be a good Madonna for sure. So if I'm here and I press, instead of this F9, I press Shift F4, this is what I get. So I see what my table is about. I see the columns, data types, are they nullable or not, defaults, etc. I see the constraints, grants, statistics, all kind of things. Easily pressed by Shift F4. Okay? How many of you are using this kind of shortcuts already? Couple of people. Good. And then some people already learned new, and we are just on slide, I don't know which number. So you can also add your own shortcuts. So if there's something that really annoys you, you have to do a lot of things, you can create your own shortcut. Just press something and it all happens. I done that actually for some of the things I use a lot. But what I really definitely use is code templates. Code template means that you have a shortcut here. When you type CF, it actually gives you create function on the screen. You don't have to type create function, it gives you create function. Or I have created here SSF. So if I type SSF, it gives me select star from table. So a quite easy shortcut for things. About queries, easy querying. After this, tell me if you knew about it. So I have my browser here. I select here the columns I want to have in my query. I drag and drop them to my canvas. It asks me a question. I say select individual statements. And this is what I get. Select the columns I selected from the table they are from. Select, drag and drop. That's it. Did you know about that? Raise your hand. 3 people knew about it. Okay, good. More new things. And depending which order you select them from here before dragging and dropping, this will be the order. This is very useful because I make a lot of typos. I'm very glad the tool is fixing my typos. There are a lot of preferences. So both Data Modeler and SQL Developer work mainly on preferences. So if there's something you don't like about the tool, something about the behavior you don't like, go and check the preferences. Probably there is a preference that will change that behavior. So one of those that really annoyed me in the beginning was that I didn't have the line numbers. I got an error message saying line 67 error. And then I'm like, where's 67? How would 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 1, 2. And then I realized I have a preference where I can tell show line numbers. And now whenever I'm in the editor, I have the line numbers there. I can immediately see which line is 67. I don't have to count. So always check the preferences if something is really annoying you about the tool. The query result. So I have my query here, and I press the F9, and I got my query result here. That's very nice, but actually, I only would like to have this information given to my end users. So I have to go back here and type the query again to just get the hire date? I don't have to, because I can select it here, Ctrl+Shift and C, instead of Ctrl+C, and then I paste it with Ctrl+Shift and C and Ctrl+V, and this is what I get. So it only copied the highlighted part of the result, this one, Ctrl+Shift+C, only copies this part, and when I use Ctrl+V, it paints that part of the result plus the heading. See, I didn't select the heading here, I only selected the result. So I don't have to write the query again to give just part of the data as a result for my end users. I can just use this trick, Ctrl+Shift+C, and paste that. Okay? So I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens very often to me. So I'm just doing my job and the phone rings, so somebody asks a question, and then I just don't remember what I was doing. I don't remember what was the SQL I was just executing. So I know the result because I see the result, but what is it the result for? Because I don't remember anymore. So how do I know it? I go here and I press the SQL or Ctrl+Q, and I get here, where is this query result coming from? Here, this is the connection I was using, and this is the query I was querying when I got the result. So I don't have to remember which database I was connected to. Can you hear me? Yeah. I don't have to remember which database I was connected to because the connection here tells me, and I don't have to remember what query it was because it tells me. A lot of small tricks that help you to survive with your work, even though you're busier than you were before. I can also get the SQL history, all the previous queries, not just the one that I performed, just the latest one, but all the rest of them with SQL history, or F8. It shows me all the queries I have performed here, with connections, so I can see which connection it was, when was it, what kind of type, how many times executed, how long did it take to perform, etc. And there's also going to be a lot of 12.2 features we don't have yet, and so on and so on and so on. It will be very interesting. But cloud first, I'm a bit confused about that. But anyway, this still works, even though you don't have the latest cloud first version. You can see how your tables are related to each other. And if you think you just chose the wrong table, just choose another one and see the model from that perspective, and then you might see something you really were looking for. By the way, you can also have here, see the constraints, grants, statistics, flashback, dependencies, partitions, indexes, and the SQL. So there's a lot to see here. Don't stop with column and data. Check all these. It's very interesting. And I used to be the command line girl. I like to type everything in SQL+, but I must say I'm kind of learning to like this. I don't remember the syntax anymore because it's been so easy to click from here and find things from here. So I'm actually every day querying less and less from DBA table or DBA column, so on. So I quite often go here. The reports. So in Data Modeler, one of the very coolest things about Data Modeler is the reporting functionality. So when you have designed your database and you are ready to show how cool it is, this is an exciting database, and you want to show to your other users who actually don't have Data Modeler, one of the options is using reports. There's two ways of reporting. One is that you report from the open design using templates. You can create your own templates, you can use existing, there are simple, there are complex templates and so on. But another option is that you use a reporting repository. So that is an Oracle database where you just import all your designs for people to see, using these templates or using SQL. And those templates I mentioned, they actually exist also here. So you don't have to have Data Modeler to be able to see those reports. If it's a reporting repository, a database somewhere, you can just use these to query. And if it's a design, this whole package of your elements in Data Modeler, you can also see them using these. So you don't have to have standalone version installed to be able to have the reports from Data Modeler. And there are quite a lot of interesting reports here. Data Modeler, as I mentioned, you can also find it integrated inside this tool, but I find it very complicated. I am sure all the functionality is here. I have no doubts about it, but they are just under too many menus and too many, like this. You have to go here and there to find something. And to prove what I just said, I was at the Kscope last year or the year before, or one of the US conferences, and Oracle asked me to help with the hands-on lab. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? I know Data Modeler by heart, easily can help you. But the problem was that they didn't have the standalone version. They only had SQL Developer, and we were supposed to use the integrated version. And I was like, oh, I have no idea how and where to find all these features, because they are so, under here and go here and there. So when you have to find them too hard, you are losing the help in your process, which Data Modeler is giving to you. It gives you the idea where to find things. It's more intuitive. Here you need to find too much. So if you are designing databases, you can find Data Modeler here. You can open a design, you can import, export, etc., just like you can do in the standalone version, but it will be more complicated because there's always too many places you have to go first. But anyway, if somebody else designed the database already with Data Modeler, you can open the design with a tool, with SQL Developer, and see the design. No problem. You see it exactly the same way as you see with standalone. But then changing it and really designing databases will be more complicated here. Documentation and reports. So you already know that we can use the Data Modeler reports. That's already clear, but there's also other things. So from here, the browser, you can say generate DB doc. And you can select, first of all, where to save it, and secondly, which columns you are interested in having in your documentation, or which you don't want to have in your documentation. So you select from here which will be in the documentation or which will not be. This is what I got. So I asked for HTML documentation of my database, and I told the tool what kind of data is interesting to me, and that's what I got. So if I have people, I have developers, architects, end users, somebody who's interested about my database but doesn't want to know everything, I can use this reporting functionality to create personalized reports for them, only including that data they need, but exactly the data they need. And because it's HTML, they can use this to navigate exactly to the place they want to know more about. And if they come to me and say, yeah, I like your report, but it's not telling me this and that, I said, that's fine. It takes me 2 weeks to fix it. I go to my room, I have coffee for 2 weeks, and then I use the last 2 minutes to create the template again. And here we are, we have a new report again. So it's a really simple way of getting the data out about your database. The data dictionary. So I said that I used to be the command line girl, and I don't do it so much anymore because this tool is too easy to use. I remember when SQL Server came out and those DBAs were just using this kind of tools, and I was like, oh, not a real DBA. Real DBAs knows the commands. Not anymore. Because we have now tools we can use. We don't have to remember so much anymore. Like for instance, I want to know what a national language support I have in my NLS parameters in the database. I can just go here, about your database, which version am I using, what kind of language settings do I have, etc. I don't have to remember $, DB, database, databases. I don't have to remember it anymore. I just go here and I just select, okay, give me the version. Is it 12.1 or 12.2? Okay, very easy. Or what language settings do I have? Also about invalid objects. Have you ever queried from database, do I have any invalid objects? Yeah, me too. I don't do it anymore. I just go here and I check, do I have any invalid objects? And I see what I have. And I might to actually also go and compile them, compile invalid. I can also see the alert log. Okay, everything this happens if I have the privileges. If I don't have privileges to alert log, of course I don't see it. So this is not a way to avoid having privileges. You still need to have the same privileges as you need it when you're using SQL+ or any other tool. So alert log, I can see what's going on in my database, what kind of alerts do I have. Or I can see who's logging. Who is logging my database, who, where, and how. I don't have to remember how to join some views in the database or so on, I just go in and say, tell me who's logging. And I see the user, bit, sit, etc. What kind of, is it reading, execute, is it exclusive log, etc. And there's a lot of other things like that too. Just examples what you can see. Also, top SQL by CPU or by discrete or execution, different parameters. So find the top SQLs doing something using my resources. And I can click here and see what kind of SQL that is. So a lot of DBA thing is also here in the tool. So this tool is not just for developers, not just for designers, not just for DBAs, not just for architects, not just for whatever. I think it's for everybody who's doing anything with your databases. Also, as a DBA, you have your own selection here. You can select DBA, which will show you a new box here called DBA. So whenever I connect to a database, I need to create a connection where I give my credentials, I tell the tool what database and so on. I'm sure you already know about this because you do it every time, whatever tool you're using. But here, if you're using this DBA, you need to create a new connection. So the connections you created here earlier are not automatically here. You need to create a new connection for the DBA here. Okay? So selecting this one will get you this screen over here. And from the DBA, you have even more DBA functionalities available. For instance, Instance Viewer, where you can see so much about what's going on in your database instance. And the best is that it's showing it in colors and in figures and so on. So it's easy to read, it will be refreshed, etc. So you can all the time follow what is happening in your database instance. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. I don't have to remember any $V or anything. It's all here. The weights, the memory usage, whatever. It's very interesting. But in 4.2, we also have, see this here? So this is 4.1. There's nothing below here. This 4.2 shows you also the top SQLs and memory storage usage. That's a new feature. So you can see who's using and what. Who's the buffer gets, who's the discretes, who's doing a lot of executions, and so on. So this helps you to both understand what's going on in a database and also what is your program doing. For instance, if you see your program here 26.9 thousand times performing the same thing, you might be wondering why, because this is not what I meant to do. So this will probably give you even more information what's going on in your database and what's going on with your program in the database. But this is 4.2. Make sure to upgrade as soon as you get home, okay? Copy and diff. This is something a lot of people don't know about, and that's why I think I should tell you. So first of all, the diff. Okay, I have the copy first because I want to show you how to do the diff when I have copied first. So the database copy, you select the source. So you have connections to 2 databases or 2 schemas or 2 whatever, one in the cloud, one on premises, 2 connections somewhere. One of them is source that you want to copy to your destination connection. So one connection, second connection. Copy from here, even the data, structures, everything here. So I select object copy. You can copy schemas or table spaces and so on, but I want to have objects, DDL, etc. Oh, do I have an example here? Okay, I'm going to diff already. Oh, this is something I was supposed to be demoing you, but should I copy now? Okay, so anyway, no demos. You will have more coffee then. So it will be copied from one place to another. So I have the same structures and the same data now in 2 places after my copy. Then I want to do the diff. How are they different? So I did it yesterday. I copied yesterday everything. And today I am not sure if somebody really went to change something in one of the places. Happens sometimes, even though I have told everybody not to touch my database, but they might have touched anyway. So I want to be sure it hasn't been changed since yesterday when I did my copy. So I take database diff. I select the source, the original one, and I select the one where I copied yesterday. I select which objects I want to be comparing. I can just say only tables. I don't care about if somebody has been changing procedures or packages or something, just the tables. Or I can say yes, everything, even the materialized views, I want to know if they've been changed since my copy. And here I see how they've been changed. I see there's a lot of things here that are not here, and so on. So I see them as DDL, or I can see them as scripts. How to change it to the way as the other one is. So how to change the source to the truth. So I see here the green plus is showing me something new, yellow showing me something has changed. In Data Modeler we also have a red cross, meaning something has been removed, but this tool is not showing anything being removed. It only shows something added or something changed. So that's something I sometimes miss. I would like to know if something been deleted too, but I can't. So that's how I see what's going on here, how they've been changed. And in this script, I can get the alter, how to change it. So there was a primary key not existing anymore. Now I can just have the alters to give the primary key for my customer table. Change, and the change was missing primary key. Okay? So usually where people like to use this is when they're comparing production and test. So they want to know how much has been happening in test environment without really implementing it to the production. Or whatever is the use case for you. But this is very, very useful because you don't have to write any scripts. You just click a couple of times and you see it very visually how things has been changing. Again, preferences. So if you don't remember anything else but F9, also remember the preferences. So preferences will change everything. And for everything we talked about today, and everything that is related to the tool and Data Modeler, there's always preferences. And every version that comes out has more and more preferences because people want the tool to behave differently. Why can't this tool do this? Why is it doing like that? And what the development team does adds a new preference where you can change it. So also for this difference thing, we have preferences, which you can define how to compare those 2 databases to each other. So always remember the preferences. They are very, very good. They help you a lot. The schema browser. This is something I really miss in Data Modeler too sometimes. So if I select schema, so I press right-click here and select schema browser. I can see all the tables here. I can select the schema, the object type, and I see them in alphabetical order here, which is very good. So I know exactly what I have. Here. The thing that I really miss is define DB object. So I'm not quite sure how it is called. I kind of know, but not 100%. So I select find DB object. I type here CUST and a percent sign, because I know it's something to do with CUST, but I'm not quite sure what it is. And it will show me everything in my database or behind that connection that has anything to do with CUST. There's an index, there are a couple of tables, and there are even some types that has something to do with CUST. That's something I need quite often because I have several databases I maintain and I don't remember how things are in each of them. So this helps me to find something. I kind of remember, but not exactly. Actually, now I was trying to find this customer primary key in this search. Explain plan. Have you ever tried explain plan? Have you ever wanted to? Yes, you wanted to know what is your SQL doing. And every time you start with a new environment, you're a bit confused. How did I do it? How was I supposed to be running scripts? What privileges do I need? And so on and so on. So this tool also helps you with explain plans. F10 will execute the explain plan. Here, my very simple example, I will see it's a table access full for emp, which is of course so because I have a select star. What else can it do? And so on. Then I can also see the Autotrace by pressing F6. Here is my wonderful query explained, table access full. And here is what's going on. What kind of values do I have and where? And then I can wonder, why do I have execute count 2? Again, the preferences. Autotrace and explain plan have their own preferences, and this is to show which columns you want to see in that report. So for Autotrace, what do you want to see in Autotrace? What do you want to see in explain plan? If you don't like it, you don't have to remember how to change the query. You just come here and select, and that's it. Next time it will show different things. Also making easier. You don't have to remember so many things because there's already new things coming all the time to learn and remember. So this is kind of making it easier from the other side. And then some small things that I think are important to understand. I'm sure it has never happened to you, but some people have told me it happened to them. They went to drop a table accidentally from production. It was supposed to be the test environment, but accidentally it happened to be in production. So with this tool, you can define the color for your connection. So let's say all production connections will be red and all test environments green, or whatever is your color here. So you can choose the color for your connection so you know exactly what kind of environment you are connected to. And then when you have your connections in the list, it will show in red those that you just marked red. And you know exactly where you are connected. It can save your life sometimes. It's not very easy to explain that I didn't have a backup and I just dropped the table accidentally without really meaning anything bad. The licensing. Something that worries a lot Oracle users is that they are using something that is not licensed. And Oracle is unfortunately not making it very easy for us because sometimes we accidentally use something that we don't have a license for. So we don't mean to use it and we don't know that we need to have a license, and it can be very problematic. So with SQL Developer, if you are using something, so the tool would need to use something that is a license, something that you should pay for. It gives you this kind of screen. Do you realize you are using something that should be licensed? Do you have the license for it? And then you can think, oh, this database? No, I don't have, but that I do. And actually, so this would be very stupid to always get the same message. Do you know how they solve this? That it will be easier for you to understand what licenses you already have and what you don't have? Any guesses? Preferences. Oh no, I'm glad. I didn't talk nonsense here. So preferences. So you go to preferences and database licensing, and you have all your connections listed here. You can select, yes, I do have this license for this database. I don't have that, but I do have this. And next time you are trying to use something that needs a license, it will check from here. Okay, she's using that connection to that database, which already have this license. Okay, she's okay to use it. So it's not giving me the error message again, because it already knows that I have the license. And if I don't have a license, it's giving me the warning again. You don't have a license for this, do you? And then I know I don't use it. I like it. another thing here is the NLS. I'm sure you have special characters too that sometimes annoy. You have your way of having a date format. You might have your own, you want to have error messages in your own language and so on and so on. So this is where you can define the NLS settings. Don't have to remember so much how to really do it. So now a little bit about 4.2. I added some examples here. So in 12.2, there's a lot of new features. So people actually say that 12.2 is 13. It's not 12.2 because there's so much new cool things coming with it. And one of the extremely cool things is analytic views. I'm not going to talk more about analytic views. I only say that this tool already supports analytic views. There are reports for them, just as we had for times 10 or OLAP or data modeler or data dictionary. We saw those earlier today, but now also for analytic views. And also, so I see this when I select here analytic views. In the tools, if I try to take a new thing called SQL Monitor, here's a real-time SQL Monitor. That's a new thing in 4.2. It's very good. But if I don't have the license, this is what I get. So I should have a tuning back to be able to use real-time SQL Monitor. If I don't have it, I'll get an error message. But if I do have it, I am free to use real-time SQL Monitor to monitor my SQLs. Can be useful for you too. So this is how it looks like, real-time SQL Monitor. Here is my data from this small little tiny database, which didn't actually do much, but I can still see SQL IDs, users, parallel, time in database, buffer gets, when was it started, when ended, and actually what was this SQL. Because if you do it manually, you have to find the ID, you have to find the appropriate SQL, etc. So it's combining things for you, joining things for you automatically. And you can see exactly what's going on in the database with SQLs. One very nice thing also with 4.2 is everybody convinced now to upgrade to 4.2? Yes, good. One is reset password. Has it ever happened to you that you need to reset your password? Yeah, and then you don't remember how to do it. Then you go and find somebody who can, and then you are too embarrassed to tell the person you don't remember how to do it. Now you can do it with this tool. So you just select the reset password, username, current password, new, confirm, OK. That's it. And I had a chat with Jeff Smith just before I came here. He gave me a lot of ideas like what's coming in the next release, the cloud first release, like sharding and that kind of very cool things coming out. And he said, tell the people to give me feedback. I would be very curious to hear how they like the tool and what they are looking for, what's not working, what should be better, and so on. So he said, send me feedback. So he said, hi, this is Jeff, and this is another photo of him. Any feedback, this is his email address, directly to Jeff. Now, that's seriously what he said. He said, please contact and give feedback. And the thing, I usually start my session by saying the team that is working on SQL Developer and data model is the best in Oracle. But I can't say it anymore because then all the other teams are like, what do you mean? We are not good. What's that? But they really are extremely good. And they are really willing to improve the tool all the time, or the tools all the time. So if you have feedback, please let them know, because I am sure they will listen. And they are so efficient. When I report some bugs, it takes 1 month and it's all fixed. So they are really a good team. So use this email wisely and just report whenever you find something that is really, really worth fixing or improving in the tool. So now we have time for questions. And if you want to read what Jeff has been writing about SQL Developer, this is his blog. I mostly blog about Data Modeler. Go and read. Follow me in Twitter. And this is my email. If you have any ideas or questions or concerns about database designing, Data Modeler, feel free to contact me. I don't work for Oracle, but I love this tool and I love database designing, so I usually try to happily help as much as I can. So if you have any questions, you can contact me afterwards as well. But now, any questions at this stage? Yes?
How come Oracle didn't realize such a tool was necessary like 10 or 20 years ago? We've been forced to use just command line all this time.
Yes. So the question was, how come Oracle didn't realize we need this kind of tool like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, 15 years ago? That is a good question. So I was using a tool from a competitor at that time. Yes, which was not so good actually now that I think about, but it was so good at that time because we didn't have anything to compare with. And I remember my kind of, because I knew we are missing something, but my reaction was, like I said in the beginning, SQL Server data, DBAs, they need that kind of tool. I know the command line. So I was kind of defending the fact to myself that I like command line. So I really don't need that kind of tools. But that now that I'm giving the tool, I really love it. But I think one reason might be that Jeff joined Oracle. And Jeff is very pro this tool. So that might be one of the reasons behind why now. Because he is very passionate about it. And the whole team. But that is a good question. I've been wondering the same. And all the products, so this is free to use. You can just download and start using, don't have to pay anything. But those products we were using that time, if we wanted to use any kind of non-command line tool, you had to pay. Every year pay the license. So I'm really happy about this tool. But good question. Any other questions?
I'm an application developer and use SQL Developer when I have problems with my SQL runs slowly. You show this performance section with good. I don't need any more, remember anymore with $, views. But with last release of Oracle, it's not enough anymore. It will have several SQL plans, several optimization options. So logging with one user, I could not identify why query on the same database with other user runs slowly, because the optimization setting is in his profile. Is something in this area improved in SQL Developer?
Yeah, so the question was that if one user is performing the SQL and another user is also performing it, the first one is doing well and the second one is not doing well, how do I know what's the difference between those two? Is that the question? Yeah, that's a good question. So because it can be in several levels. It can be, like you said, in the user setting, but where you see is in the SQL monitor, where you can see exactly what was executed and how it was interpreted by the optimizer. So how the optimizer saw that particular query. Then you have to solve why did it think like that. So the first time, why did it make the full table, and why the second time? Yesterday was full table, and today it's using an index. Why? Then you have to find the reason why it happened. What was the reason why the execution plan changed? So that's still something it can't know. But you see who were the users, so you have all the facts. It's just you have to find the logic what changed. So that's something that it's always been like the job of the person solving these problems to understand what has changed really. Because there's so many factors. I think if we compare the 10, 15 years ago, we had less factors than today. So now it's good we have these tools because all those factors will still keep our job very interesting. So that's a good thing. But I remember the times with 7 and 8 when I wasn't sure about the optimizer yet. And every time it was performing poorly, my first guess was the optimizer is doing something wrong. And with 7, I was right. 7.3, I was still right. But with 8, and especially with 9, I realized that the optimizer is right and I'm wrong. Because I was always very sure, you should be performing this query like this, and full table here, join here, blah, 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 nested table. And then I saw the performance plan from the optimizer and was like, okay, that's much smarter. So I think the optimizer is doing pretty good job nowadays. It's already, well, assuming that your statistics are correct. Yes, there's one of those tabs I showed. One is statistics. Go and check what that shows. It shows you exactly how it was analyzed, when was it analyzed, how many rows that time, and so on. So you know exactly how the statistics look. Yeah, so just don't stop with the 2 first tabs, go further. And it's maybe 7th is statistics. Yes, and that's definitely something you should check, because if statistics are not correct, of course, the optimizer doesn't know what to do because it's relying on the statistics. One part is statistics. The most important part probably is statistics, but then there's, of course, other factors as well. Yeah. But we still have work to do. It's not all taken. I remember maybe 10 years ago, I was told that DBA is dead. There's no need for DBAs anymore because databases are running by themselves. And I've been waiting for the next step when we are told that developers are dead because everything is just click, click, and that's the program. Something like that was already told me with SQL years ago, that SQL is so easy. You just click, 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 and your SQL is done. Could be. But I don't think DBA is dead, and I don't think developer is dead. We are still needed. But I think we can now concentrate on more interesting things. We don't have to do the basic job anymore because we have tools to do that. We can do the more important and more interesting things. That's how I see it. At least how I feel it, because that's what I do nowadays. I do even more interesting things than I was doing 15 years ago.